I don't believe men were created to be pawns in someone else's game. I believe we're created to be steward kings. Men under authority, yes, but entrusted with real responsibility. Not perfect men, but disciplined ones. Men who rule themselves, serve God directly, and refuse to live in fear. This is king, not pawn. See, almost every man I talk to eventually asks the same question: what's my purpose? And underneath that question is actually something deeper. It's typically, what am I supposed to do with my life? Because I think we can all agree drifting feels wrong, waking up without direction feels wrong, or living in a reactive state instead of an intentional state feels just kind of off, not really aligned. So here's the first thing we have to correct: it's the understanding that purpose is not hidden from you like a treasure map, the way that society wants you to believe. It's that purpose is often usually avoided. I call it the lie of the lightning bolt. A lot of men, they think that purpose just arrives like they got struck by lightning, just an instant calling from a specific moment, this revelation. And it's not that it can't work like that. It's just that according to scripture, it rarely does work that way. See, God doesn't really reveal the entire path all in one go. He kind of just reveals the next responsibility one step at a time. For example, Moses was tending sheep, David was guarding livestock, Peter was fishing. They weren't exactly chasing destiny, they were just simply being faithful where they stood. And I've seen this pattern time and time again. You know, a man will say he's waiting for clarity, he's waiting on confirmation, he's waiting on a clear sign from God. Months pass, sometimes maybe even years, and nothing changes. And that's not because God is silent, but it's because he hasn't moved towards the responsibilities already in front of him. Clarity often does follow obedience, okay, not the other way around. Purpose is not passion. And this is another mistake I see men make all the time. They think that purpose equals passion. What do I feel excited about? What gives me energy? What would I love to do? And that's not wrong, okay, but it is incomplete. And I got to say it because biblical purpose, it's not primarily about excitement. It's about alignment with truth, with service, responsibility, stewardship. That passion you're looking for often grows after there is commitment present, not before. Which leads me to kind of this thought of, God's first purpose for every man. Before anything else, scripture is pretty clear. Your first purpose is to know God, to walk with him, and to reflect his character by the fruit that you bear, okay? That's not abstract because that affects how you speak, how you work, how you treat people, how you manage your money, handle conflicts, stuff like that. If your life does not reflect Christ, there is no career here on earth that's going to fix that, okay? So here's something simple but powerful. Look at what's already in your hands: your body, your habits, your work, your family, your friendships, your church, your community. Most men overlook purpose because they're waiting on something bigger. But God tests men with small stewardship first. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Matthew 25:21. There's a moment where a man stops asking, what is my calling, and starts asking, what needs to be done around me? That shift changes everything because he's not waiting to be chosen. He is stepping forward to serve. And that's where purpose starts to form, because purpose is built. It's not discovered. Okay? It's not discovered in isolation. It's built through discipline, through service, correction, consistency, humility. And I think as you walk with God daily, you begin to notice these different patterns, okay? You begin to notice what you're good at, what burdens you carry naturally, where people trust you, where your fruit is growing, okay? And that's not accidental, because that is quite literally the formation that we're called to. Here's something important though. Hear me when I say that you need to guard against comparison, because comparison is one of the fastest ways to sabotage purpose. You look at another man and you think to yourself, he's ahead, he's more gifted, he's clearer. But you weren't assigned his lane, okay? God doesn't compare his stewards, he evaluates faithfulness. Your responsibility is not to replicate someone else's path, It's simply just to walk yours in obedience. Now, look, purpose requires discipline, and this is where many men falter because they want direction without the discipline that comes alongside of it. But here's the kicker, right? Is discipline is the very thing that clears the fog. Waking up early, training your body, studying scripture, serving consistently. And when your life is disordered, your mind will feel confused. The clarity, you know, clarity, it loves order. And work in life is really important. Work, purpose, that's not a curse, okay? It is designed. God placed Adam in the garden, right? To work it, to keep it, all before, sin entered the picture, of course. But here's the thing, work develops competence, provision, resilience. And even if your job isn't your final destination, because often it's not. I think I read somewhere once that people have like 3 to 5 different career changes like in their life, okay? So the job that you have in front of you today, make no mistake, it is forming you. Okay, treat it seriously. Here's the thing, with purpose though, you do need to find like a sense of community because most men, they will try to find this purpose in isolation, and sometimes you can, but most oftentimes you can't. I think it's a mistake because iron sharpens iron, okay? Get around disciplined men, honest men, grounded men, and be careful to not get around men who just complain constantly, who, drift. I think involving yourself in a community not only demonstrates humility, but it even goes further to expose blind spots that you didn't think you might have but desperately needed to correct. And not only that, I think that community strengthens direction as well. Here's the other thing I'll say is don't wait for perfect certainty. Okay, you will never have 100% clarity on anything. Move anyway. As long as you are, not violating scripture, not ignoring any convictions that you have, and not abandoning responsibility, I would say take steps, okay? Because God corrects moving men more easily, than he directs the stagnant ones who kind of refuse to move and just kind of like stay there and sheltered. There's this test you can do. Let's just call it the fruit test, okay? It's how you're going to evaluate your direction. So, is your life producing growth, discipline, service, impact, or is it producing distraction, indulgence, confusion, avoidance? Maybe. Because Jesus said, you will know a tree by its fruit. Purpose produces fruit. Fantasy just produces nothing. So look, what is the real definition of purpose? Purpose is not fame. It's not a platform. It's not recognition. Purpose is becoming the kind of man that God can trust with influence, whether that influence is a family, a business, church, small circle. Size doesn't determine significance. Faithfulness does. Okay, so stop waiting for lightning. Look at what's already in your hands and start serving there. Grow there. Discipline yourself there. Seek first the kingdom. Purpose is not a mystery to solve. It's simply a responsibility to accept. This is king, not pawn. You were not created to drift. You were created to steward. And the moment you accept responsibility for what's in front of you, your purpose will begin to unfold.